Hello guys, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today, as you can see, we're in a different background, and that's because I'm in my room for this video, because I wanted this video to be a more chilled out, more sort of conversational type of video. So this video is in tandem with Autism Awareness Month, which is this month, the month of April. And obviously that's very personal to me, as I am part of the autistic community, and I have done the same thing that I asked my friends and family to do for the last video, which is a Q&A style video. However, this one is not going to be 40 minutes long, and I apologise for that. I didn't actually know how long the video was going to take last time, so it turned out to be more of a podcast style video than anything else, so I apologise for that. Also, before we get started with this autism Q&A, we are 8 subscribers away from my 100 subscriber target goal for this year, so please smash that subscribe button, hit the like button, and comment down below of what is your favourite video of my whole channel so far, as my most popular video is obviously my Euro 2024 predictions video. It's currently on 1.8k views, and if you've watched that video and haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, as I want to hit 100 subscribers by the end of the year. And maybe as like a extra challenging goal, I'd like to try and hit 250 subscribers by the start of next year. So let's try and get that underway as well. So this video will be a lot shorter because I've only got a couple questions on my phone, but this is going to be another Q&A style video. I've gotten my friends and family to ask me a few questions about autism in general and my autism experience, and we're going to dive in now. So sit back and enjoy this Autism Awareness Month Q&A video, and maybe you guys can learn something as well. Maybe you don't really know much about autism, and this is the perfect video for you to get a bit of understanding about it. So let's get into this Q&A. The first question that I have is, what is the autism spectrum? So there have been many diagrams and pictures drawn up of the spectrum. Some people believe it to be a line, or like a top to bottom thing of like high functioning and low functioning autism. However, the autism spectrum is more generally known now as a circle or a pie chart, where the autism spectrum is an overall generic term, and the pie chart is full of more specific things. So, for example, on my autism pie chart, for example, for my condition, I would have sensory processing disorder, social anxiety issues, a few things on the motor skills department, so with coordination, etc. And echolalia is also part of that sensory processing disorder. So for me, autism affects me sensory-wise, social-wise, and a little bit in coordination when I was younger. I've always been okay academically. I've always been good in school, but it's just those more social sort of areas that I've personally struggled with. Some of my other friends struggle in different areas, who may differ to me, but we all have sort of similar traits, because every autistic person is not the same. We may just show off similar traits. So if you have any friends or family that you think may be autistic or are autistic, then you will also know that the traits are not the same. They're just a little bit different. Like, I have some friends in my friendship group that are more socially outgoing than me, but they struggle more with maybe like time management or organisational skills, those sorts of things. So autism spectrum is a pie chart rather than a line or anything like that. So that is what the autism spectrum is, and that leads us straight into the next question, which is, what is the difference between autism and Asperger's disorder? There technically isn't an actual difference. It's just autism is now the government's like overall generic term, because the Asperger's syndrome was a thing until I think it was like the late sort of like 2010s, 2015 sort of time, where they changed the term because Asperger's, the name Asperger's has got some horrible historical background. I don't know what I can say for YouTube sort of guidelines, but I will try and say it in the best way I can. The creator of the term Asperger's was a guy called Hans Asperger, who in the 1930s and 40s worked for the Germans against the British in the National Socialist Party, also known as that party. And so obviously that name in connotation to autism brings from bad stigmatizations and stereotypes, which people in the autistic community are trying to sort of flatten out and say that just because the term for our condition came from a person as bad as that, it doesn't mean that we're all bad like he was. But autism is the overall term. Like my actual condition, like the actual diagnosis I have is autism spectrum disorder, but it used to be called Asperger's syndrome disorder, but they changed the term. I apologise for the sunlight in the background. I will just move my camera slightly. So, the next question. How good is people's understanding of autism and how it impacts society? So this is actually a very interesting one because I'm doing my dissertation on this, and I would say personally, I think people's understanding has actually gotten a lot better. However, there are a few countries, America, and a few other countries that may not have the best idea of what autism is. I understand that there is a large autism community in America, but there are still a few people in that country who may not have a full understanding, and especially over there where electroshock therapy is still legal, which I do not condone at all. I think it's a horrific practice and it should not be condoned to anybody. But overall, I do think people's understanding of autism has improved greatly. However, there is still not much research done on autism, because that's why I'm doing my dissertation on it. Excuse me, to get a more great understanding of it. I also think that, I think due to the long-term impacts of autism and how it used to be portrayed, I do think it will still take a bit of a time to sort of settle in properly. But I'm happy to see the change that people are making, the change that a lot of companies are now making. So when I went on holiday recently, when I went to Warwick Castle, they had a autism quiet hour throughout their exhibits. So everyone had to be extra quiet for people who have sort of sensory issues and do not like loud noises. Excuse me. The next question. Why is the term acoustic going round, and is it bad? So I'm only very new to this term. I think it first came around on TikTok and social media. And essentially, acoustic, the word acoustic is an intentional mispronunciation of the word autistic, and it is usually to describe someone who is behaving incredibly stupidly or ignorant, so sort of like ignorant and stupid behaviour. So obviously to put that word onto autistic people is basically leading people to assume that calling autistic people acoustic is making them seem like their behaviour in society is overly excessive, ignorant, like blind and selfish to other people, really not really caring about other people, sort of like we're all ignorant and we're all self-centered, etc. And it's putting a really bad light on autistic people. I addressed this on a TikTok video a couple months ago, and the amount of hate I got in the comments was immense. I was saying that this word should not be used because acoustic is an instrument, like an acoustic guitar. So to implement that word onto autistic people really isn't the way forward. I think that if people want to actually become aware of autism and actually like want to help autistic people, calling them acoustic is not the best way. I have friends as well and people that have told me that they're not particularly bothered by it, but me personally, I don't really like the word. I imagine it. I reckon it. Most of the time, I reckon it's all jokes and it's meant to be a funny thing. But the fact that it's used to describe people of ignorant and overly excessive behaviour, I think that the word just shouldn't be used in connotation with autistic people. Do people have assumptions about autism, and has this affected you in any way? So, obviously, the assumptions about autistic people. So, for anyone who's watching this and do not have any autistic relatives or you're autistic yourself, I challenge you to go round to your friends and family or strangers at your school, your uni, your work, whoever, and to ask them in 3 words, describe an autistic person. But this would only work if they have never met an autistic person in their life or do not know what autism is. I would like you to ask them in 3 words, describe an autistic person. Like, what do they look like? What are they doing? I imagine probably 70% of people would probably like do the generic stereotypes. So they'd be like wearing headphones, they'd be antisocial, they'd be flapping their hands around in an exuberant manner. They'd be quite loud in their speaking. They'd be quite, they'd come off quite antisocial, quite selfish. I have had stereotypes like this before. Going through secondary school and junior school. For example, when I used to stim, in the early years of my autism diagnosis, when I didn't really understand what was going on, I used to not know social boundaries particularly. So I was very chatty to a lot of people. So in schools, obviously, when you're younger, obviously you are told not to like the headmistress or the headmaster is like the top of the school. You need to respect them, be kind, be polite. When I was young in my infant school, I would just go into the headmistress's office and just talk to them on a regular basis. Like, I didn't know the social lines, and obviously that would come across as quite badly behaved, maybe because you're not respecting people's boundaries. Obviously now I'm older, now I'm 20 years old. I know I know now the lines of respect, in social situations and also in the education and environment. I now know not to do that, because also, by the way, in infant school, for anyone watching in America, when you're in infant school, you are sort of between the ages of 3 and 6. I don't know what that correlates to in grades in terms of your school, but it's between the ages of 3 and 6 years old that you're in infant school in Britain, and I just didn't really have the social boundary. But also the other thing is I was going up the reading lists like quicker than most people, because in infant school we had colours to determine the difficulties of books. So like cream and lime colour would be like the easier, and then like deep dark purple, sort of brown, would be sort of like the more challenging books, and I would be like in the magentas, sort of purples, when everyone was still like in lime. So my academic abilities were accelerating beyond my classmates in that time. But I have been bullied in the past for my autistic stuff. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's very, very personal to me. But obviously, as a result of that, I had to get counselling and things for it at the school that I moved to after I moved from my old secondary school. But to answer the question, there are assumptions about autism. There are stigmatisations that are still roaming around. The R word is still used to describe us. And has it affected me? Yes, it has. It's affected me. It's still left a psychological scar up here. I'm very, very self-conscious now. Like I'm overly apologetic for if I feel like I'm doing anything wrong. I don't really like to go out in public on my own. Like, I feel like I just will stick out like a sore thumb. So that's why I may not be as sort of mature for my age as I should be, because I don't have those real world experiences, because truth be told, I'm actually quite scared to go out into the real world on my own. I just don't think I'll be able to handle certain scenarios that I'll encounter. Next question. What is the most helpful advice you were told or should have been told when you were younger? And I have to thank my specialist school for this, that I was at from year 8 to 6th form, which is year 12 or 13, so from when I was 11 to 18. And it was to embrace your gifts. Don't look at your autism or your dyslexia or your ADHD as something to want to get rid of, something to hide. You should embrace everything that's given to you. Yes, you may have to adapt to the flaws that you've been given. So obviously me, the social anxiety side, the heavy amounts of anxiety that I can get just randomly throughout the day. I overthink everything. I have to think about every possible scenario before I go to a certain place or a certain event. I have to prepare myself for things that may not even happen on that day. So like, for example, if there's forecast of rain, I still have to bring my headphones, because just in case there's thunder, because thunder is unexpected. You don't know when it's going to arise. But that school has taught me so much about myself, to embrace the autism and embrace the gifts that I've been given, like the gifts of my intelligence, my ability to come up with poetical sentences. Like, I'm going to be starting a YouTube series, a YouTube poetry series, where I'm going to be reading you guys the poems that I have written myself, because I think from a lot of my friends and family who have listened to my poetry, they say that I should get them out into the world, as more people should hear the talent that I have for writing poetry. It may not be something that you're interested in, but if you're not interested in it, please do still give it a listen, because I think the more people that hear it, the better, because these poems are very, very personal to me. I write them when I'm at my lowest, but I use poetry to enhance my sadness, and it gives me a lot of power when I write my words. But the advice that I would go back to my younger self and say is to embrace your autism. Don't try and block out as much hate as you can, because now looking back, the people that picked on me throughout school were probably jealous of the fact that I was higher in the academic scale than they were. I was, as I said, not as socially, but higher in the academic scale than they were. I was progressing a lot further than they were, so they were probably just jealous, and they were picking on me to try and deflect their own hatred towards me, I imagine. But yeah, embrace the autism, embrace everything about it. That is the advice that I would give to my younger self. When you're overwhelmed, what are your coping mechanisms? So I had to learn this through counselling for 3 years, but also, I actually have one of them down here. So one of the coping mechanisms are these. I will put a link to the Amazon link in the description down below. But these are Soundcore Q20 noise cancelling headphones, and I've had these. These are brand new, but I've been using these headphones for the past 5 years, and they are extremely well done. This is not sponsored, by the way. This is just a free advertisement for Soundcore. These are extremely good headphones, and I recommend for anyone who's on the autistic spectrum or is struggling with loud noises, get these headphones. They are extremely good. They cost about 30 quid on Amazon, so they're quite a good budget, and I would highly recommend to get these. These are basically my saviours in loads of occasions. Just plug them in, turn the noise cancelling mode on, listen to your music, and it basically blocks out any noise at all. Sometimes my family have to throw cushions at me to get my attention, because the quality of these is so good. I will say though, the battery life on these is decreased due to the noise with the noise cancelling filter on. However, the Soundcore Q20 headphones give you 40 hours of listening time with noise cancelling on, and 60 hours if you use them as regular headphones. So it's really, really good quality, really good battery life. And shout out to Soundcore, because you've saved me in so many occasions where my anxiety has gone through the roof. Other coping mechanisms, I have a few babyish ones. For example, I have a lot of soft blankets that I use to sort of calm me down. I have a few sort of toys that I had when I was younger, sort of like stuffed like snowman toys and things like that I use as comfort things. But also, a very, very good technique that my counsellor gave me. I don't use it personally, but I do think it's good for anyone else who struggle with anxiety or panic attacks like I do, sensory overloads, burnouts as they're called, things like that. Is the 5-4-3 is the 5 to 1 method, and it's about your senses. So when you're in a sort of sensory overload situation, sort of breathe heavily in, breathe deeply, and think to yourself, what are 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste, and just focus your mind on those, and it does help. As personally, I don't use it because it doesn't personally work for me, but see if that helps. Also, as I said, the noise cancelling headphones help, and anything that because usually it takes a bit of time. You won't find what helps you straight away. You have to sort of explore with these sorts of things, because I used to have like fidget spinners and sort of stress balls that my parents bought me, which didn't really help me. But then I found my own sort of things, and for me personally, deep breathing and closing my eyes and sort of listening to calming music, putting my headphones on and just being to myself really helps me personally, and it really does help me a lot. So the next one, we've got a couple more to go. This is also going to be about a half an hour video, so I apologise. What are my autism related strengths? So I listed off a couple before. Like, I'm very good with words. Like, my poetry is astronomically good. I'm thinking of putting them into national competitions. I've always been very intelligent academically, always strived through school. I've passed all A levels, all GCSEs. Again, don't know what the equivalent of that is in America. That's just the exams that we take in secondary school and college. Other autism related strengths, I can talk for a very long time without getting bored. With my autism related strengths, I have heightened obsessions for things. Obviously, obsessions, people might think, that's a bit odd. Why are you obsessed with things? But it's not. The other term is specialist interest. It's basically a hyper focus on a specific topic or thing that we're interested in. So mine is cars. I know basically everything about cars. None of the technical things, but I know cars just from their front headlights, for example. Like, I also have a very good memory. My memory is photographic. Like, I can memorize number plates. I'm very, very good at memorizing a lot of things. I'm also a very good listener as well, because I've been told by a lot of people again that I observe a lot of things. But that's probably also due to my anxiety. My anxiety makes me hyper aware of everything, so I'm always looking around, observing what people are doing. That may come a little bit off weird, like I'm a people watcher, but I don't mean it in any bad way. It's just that I observe, and it means that I'm aware of what's going on around me, and it sort of helps me prepare for things if they're unexpected, etc. But they are my autism-related strengths. I'm also a very good friend as well, as a lot of people have told me, so that's another good thing. How do you feel your autism has affected me? How do you feel my autism has affected me in education? Again, not that much, to be fair. Only the sort of the social side. I before moving to my specialist school, I didn't have many friends. I was alone most of the time because I didn't have that social thing. I was also quite gullible. Like, I would take a lot of things literally. Like a very funny one is when I used to do mock exams in secondary school. If the question asked, for example, can you label this diagram, I would put yes I could, yes I can, because it's saying can you answer it, so I put yes. But nowadays I know that it's asking me to label the diagram. So here's another tip for any people who are watching who may be parents of autistic children. If they are faced with a question like this, like can you label this, do you know how to solve this equation, a tip that my teachers gave me was take off the can you and the do you know how to. So you change the question from can you label this diagram to label this diagram, because then that's giving you direct instruction rather than asking a question like can you do this? Yes, I can. That's a tip that I learned. But how it affected me in education, again, academically never did. But I was just picked on for the social things and being very gullible. I fell into traps quite a bit, not literal traps, but metaphorical traps. I fell into a lot of things. I got set up quite easily, and it just wasn't a very fun experience. But it never affected me on the education side of things, like the actual learning side. I've always been good with that. 2 more questions. What do I struggle with the most? So again, covered this before. I struggle mostly with social anxiety. Like I have high amounts of anxiety for no reason. I'm not very good still with a little bit of my organisational skills. Like sometimes I will forget, after I've made a sandwich, for example, I will forget to tidy up the side because I'm so focused on wanting to make my sandwich, sit down and watch a bit of YouTube or something that I don't remember to put everything away and clear the side down. Other things that I struggle with, obviously, as I said, I'm very, very self-conscious. I'm overly apologetic, as my friends and family will know. I apologise for a lot of things, even though if I haven't done anything wrong or something like that. I always just in a lot of situations, I always feel like things are my fault, just because when I was younger, in going through school and things, I was always told that most of the things that happened were my fault. So I blame myself for a lot of things, even though that's not. I shouldn't really do that. And then the final question: if you could ask one thing to your friends, if I could ask one thing to my friends right now, how they can support me in my autism journey, what would that be? To be fair, I don't need to answer this question because my friends, well, they're my friends for a reason. They have supported me since we became friends. Like my longest ever friend, 15 years we've been friends. They've supported me for a lot of things, and I've supported them for a lot of things. My other friends, like my podcast co-host Josh, we've been friends for 8 years. He has been by my side for a lot of things, and especially when my mum was going through all those things. Bless her soul, I hope she's doing okay wherever she is. Josh has helped me through so many things, so shout out to Josh if you're watching. You are just the best guy. I'm so honoured to have met you in my life and have you in my life as one of my bestest friends. Thank you for always supporting me, and I hope that I have supported you in the same type of way. And my other friends as well, they've done so well to help me. And also my friendship group, we all are neurodiverse, so we're all sort of bounce off each other anyway, so it really, really helps. So if we have issues or we have little problems, we can just go to each other and ask, because we've all dealt with similar things. So that's probably why as well my friendship group is so tightly compacted, because we're all neurodiverse, we all have those things. But yeah, that is the end of the Q&A. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and hopefully this has given you some more awareness and an understanding of autism and my experience from the autism spectrum. But the message I will leave you guys with is, don't be too quick to judge, because it may affect people's mental health long term. Be kind, and not all autistic people who are going, this is very specific, but not all autistic people who are having anxiety attacks or sensory overloads, if you come up to them and pressure them to tell you what's wrong, it may throw them off even more. It may throw them into a more anxious state. If they don't respond to you, it would just leave them alone. Not in a rude way or anything, but just maybe come back and wait for them to calm down, because their coping mechanisms may involve being alone to try and work to sort of think to themselves, to sort of calm themselves down. Other external factors might throw them off even more. But the overall general message I have is autism is something that should be embraced in society. It's something that shouldn't be hated. It's something that shouldn't be looked down upon. I advocate for autism highly because I've been through the hate, I've been through the bullying, I've been through the stereotypes, and I hate it. I hate it with a passion. And it's taken me 6 years to become comfortable within my own self, within my own mind, because of the amount of hurt that I've had in the past. And I've discussed that in this video, but I've only just become comfortable within myself. Yes, I don't feel comfortable enough to embrace the world yet. Yes, I'm 20 years old. I'm 21 in October, but I still don't feel comfortable to embrace the real world, because I still think the real world is set up to destroy people like us. I think that society is built to throw us off rather than to help us, and I implore anyone watching this video to try and make a difference. We need government and society to see that we are not something that should be thrown in the trash. We should be something that should help you along the journey to become greater. Maybe if they employed a few autistic people into government, maybe we'd see a bigger change in the awareness and understanding. Instead of letting so-called experts decide what's the best for autistic people, maybe you should let autistic people decide for themselves. Anyway, rant over with. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next video.